Outlander is based on a series of books by Diana Gabaldon. It's a time-traveling fantasy that brought Heughan and Caitríona Balfe to the screen. If you follow the series, you'll know them as Jamie and Claire Fraser. Join us in this video as we bring you 10 interesting facts you may not know about Sam and Caitríona, as well as some surprising snippets from behind the scenes on the series. First up, this man is grotesque. This was literally the writer Diana Gabaldon's initial reaction when they cast Heughan as Jamie, but when she had a chance to see his audition tape, she quickly changed her mind. From that moment on, it was a done deal. She said he'd nailed the audition scene just like she had it in her mind, with the exact combination of menace, dread, and everything else. During filming, there was a scene between Jamie and Claire that had to be reshot because of the Scottish weather. Initially, the scene didn't have enough nudity. Filming took place next to a river in Scotland, and it was November. Even when they were fully clothed, the actors were freezing. The scene from season 4 had to be reshot once the temperatures were a little higher so both the actors could actually get their kit off. The release of Outlander season 1 may well have been delayed because of the Scottish referendum in 2014. Diana Gabaldon fervently denied this, but WikiLeaks leaked emails that show the UK Prime Minister Cameron had a meeting with representatives from Sony to discuss the release date. Why, do you ask? Well, Heughan, the lead actor, had been very vocal about his support for Scottish independence, and they were afraid this may influence the referendum outcome. This was an important referendum because the Scottish Parliament makes decision on housing and education for Scottish citizens. And if Scotland had become independent, the country wouldn't have had to follow UK government policies anymore. During the pandemic, for instance, vastly different rules about isolation and prevention came out of Wales, Scotland, England, and Northern Ireland. The big issue everybody thought Heughan might influence was whether Scotland would be allowed to make its own decisions, even on foreign policy and defense. Talk about an actor with power. To see how Scotland became Northern California, keep watching. We're gonna bring you that in a moment. Next, Castle Leoch got screen time in Game of Thrones and Outlander. Castle Leoch scenes were filmed at Doune Castle. This historical site is no stranger to film and television, though. Monty Python and the Holy Grail shot scenes there, and it also served as Winterfell in Game of Thrones. The Duke of Albany built Doune Castle in 1400. Today, it is one of the best preserved castles from the medieval period in Scotland. Blackness Castle dates back to 1440 and provides scenery for Fort William, as the original structure no longer exists. The structure conforms to the shape of the rock, which serves as its foundation. Long and narrow, it is sometimes referred to as the ship that never sailed. It stands in the bay at Blackness, only a few miles away from the Linlithgow Palace. The history of the region is interwoven into the story of Outlander. In the 15th century, the Earl of Caithness and Sir John Crichton built the castle. He was a member of one of Scotland's most powerful families. Also, the developer of the show, Ronald D. Moore, chose to retain Gaelic words instead of using English translations. There was also a decision to not use subtitles at all. All of this was to place the viewers in Claire's shoes. She was the Outlander who didn't understand the language. There's a level of authenticity along with the historical settings that contribute to the makings of a spectacular piece of historical fiction. And that is exactly what Outlander is. Like so many movies and series, the author of the original books actually got a hat tip with a cameo appearance in Outlander. To see where and how, stay with us. That's coming up in a moment. So, it may have actually left Scotland, but it feels like it's there. In season 4, the actors departed from Scotland for America, but filming still happens in Scotland. When the story crossed the Atlantic, Scottish locations started doubling for North Carolina in the 18th century. This is also a great story about the standing stones on the Isles of Lewis. And warning, there may be the slightest spoiler here. The huge stone that transports Claire back through time was made in the image of the central stone of the Colonish standing stones on the Isle of Lewis. That's in Scotland's Outer Hebrides. The standing stones are a cross-shaped configuration probably erected around 5,000 years ago. In fact, they predate Stonehenge and have been serving as a setting for all kinds of ritual activity for more than 2,000 years. Some archaeologists guess that the standing stones at Kalonai form some kind of observatory, but nobody is sure. There is a more popular theory, though, that perhaps is more fitting to Outlander. Approximately every 18.6 years, the moon just skims and passes extremely low over the hills to the south. It seems to perform a dance between and among the hills, something like a supernatural force visiting Earth. So much speculation does the rounds about the right and wrong way to wear a kilt, and with Sam Heughan being a true Scotsman, he would know. With or without underwear? That is the question. Stay with us till the end, and we're gonna investigate and bring you the lowdown. Also, Diana Gabaldon, the author, actually has a cameo. She appears as Iona McTavish in the 4th episode of the 1st season. She doesn't have many lines, but she tells in her blog how it took 5 hours to film and how she had to learn a Scottish accent with a language coach. She didn't get stage fright, though. It was an episode of Doctor Who inspired that setting for Diana's first Outlander novel, and she says that Fraser Hines from the War Games was the chief influence on Jamie's character. There was also remarkable similarities between 1954's Brigadoon and Outlander. In Brigadoon, Gene Kelly is transported back through time and he ends up falling in love with a Highland lass. The Empire in Outlander, according to the writer, was inspired by a Doctor Who episode from the 60s. It was set in Scotland. Jamie, the leading man in Outlander, was based on Jamie McCrimmon, Patrick Troughton's companion in a Highland-themed story called War Games. She became inspired after seeing the TARDIS land. This is where Bonnie Prince Charlie was defeated at the Battle of Culloden. When she saw Jamie McCrimmon on the first episode, he was the piper. She got the idea for Hames Mackenzie Fraser, or Jamie as we know him. Diana said she thinks a historical novel is best written when you see the settings you want to use in the book firsthand. The old Doctor Who reruns made Jamie stick in her mind. She was struck by the kilt, which she thought was fetching, and also the character's male gallantry. In church the next day, she was thinking about it and decided there and then to set the book in 18th century Scotland. There wasn't a plot. In fact, the way she tells it, there was nothing. Just a guy in a kilt. That, folks, is how Outlander started, and the plot and characters that became an idea in that church service grew into the multi-season series we all know and love. And finally, the truth about wearing kilts. More than one Outlander actor has admitted to donning the kilt the traditional way, without wearing any underwear underneath. Sam Heughan told Entertainment Weekly that he is a true Scotsman and loves wearing a kilt on the show. He's a huge proponent of the kilt, and he says that apart from being a part of his heritage and culture, it's also very comfortable. It is sometimes considered inauthentic to wear underwear or anything else beneath the kilt, but some people also claim it is unhygienic. You see, washing a pair of jeans is one thing, but keeping a kilt clean is quite another. So we decided to try to find the right answer to this conundrum. Back in 2016, 315 Scottishmen were asked what they don under their kilts. Around 55% said they wore underwear, 7% said they use shorts or something similar, and 38% said they wear nothing. Also, this survey showed older and younger Scots are inclined, much more so in fact, to go commando under their kilts. That's 21% by comparison to the 45% of men between 25 and 64 that went for the true Scotsman option. While the results are fairly split, most seem to lean towards wearing at least something beneath their kilts. But personal preference and comfort trump tradition and culture in this case. So whether Scott Heughan goes regimental or wears something to help him sit more comfortably, he's not likely to be judged less of a Scotsman because of it. Our recommendation: if it's your own kilt, do whatever you like. But if it's a higher kilt, for Pete's sake, wear something underneath. And with that little piece of wisdom, we come to the end of this video. Thanks for joining us and enjoying it to the end. Remember to join us again for our next upload.